Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sapient Thoughts. On today's episode, I want to discuss the meaning of life. And I want to look at the meaning of life from the perspective of Islam and atheism. And we're going to really look at which of these two outlooks, worldviews, really make sense of meaning. Because the reality is, guys, that when it comes to meaning, that's one of the most fundamental things any human being is concerned with. Who are we? Why are we here? What's our purpose? And if we can figure this out, then everything else falls into place. So let's start off by looking at the meaning of life from the perspective of Islam. Now it's very simple. It's not going to take too long. We believe as Muslims that Allah created us, and He created us with purpose. He created everything with a purpose. So there is teleology behind everything, whether it's this world or us human beings. And what does Allah say when it comes to our purpose as human beings? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that He did not create us for any other reason except for one reason, which is that we are to know Him and to worship Him. This is the crux of our lives. This is why we exist. And that's pretty much it. That's how simple it is from the Islamic perspective. But now if we look at it from the perspective of atheism, and before we get into what life means on atheism, let's just quickly break down what we mean by atheism. Now, if you look at the Oxford Dictionary or the Cambridge Dictionary, the definition is very clear. It's the theory or belief that God does not exist or gods do not exist, right? Now, the reason I'm clarifying this because I know many atheists, when you try to define atheism for them, they take offense. They're like, no, this is not what atheism means. Atheism means, that we just believe there's not enough evidence for a creator, it's not a positive position, etc., etc. But according to the dictionary definitions, this is what it means, and this is what we're going to stick with and go with here. So, atheists claim that there is no God, there is no creator. Now, what does this mean? This means that everything that exists, this entire world, this entire universe, us human beings, everything is just one big accident. It's like spilt milk. And the universe came into existence by chance. And whatever has now then proceeded to happen within the universe is also by chance. It's also accidental. It's like when milk spills on the table, some of the droplets eventually make their way and fall off the table, and some are licked up by the cat, right? So that's the reality on atheism in regards to this world. It has no meaning. It's all pointless. And therefore our very existence, we exist within this world, within this universe, we too have no meaning. There is no purpose behind our existence. We're just accidental beings that happen to have emerged on this planet. So when it comes to the question of what is the ultimate meaning of life, there isn't any. We don't have a purpose. We have no meaning. And this is where we have to sort of define something here. Now the philosophers normally like to break this discussion of meaning into two parts. They discuss the meaning of life and the meaning in life. And most philosophers like to delve into the discussion of the meaning in life because obviously that's easier to deal with, especially from a materialistic, naturalistic perspective. When it comes to the meaning of life, well, that's done and dusted. There isn't any. And this is why we find individuals like Richard Dawkins, when he addresses his community and he addresses people, he normally says, well, look, most likely there is no ultimate meaning behind life. However, we can make meaning up for ourselves. We can give ourselves meaning. And this is what most atheists do. But what's really interesting is that if we go a little bit further back in time, if we go to the 19th and 20th century, the existentialist philosophers, who I believe did somewhat of a better job than the atheists are doing today, they also took up this question. What is the meaning of life? And they quickly concluded that there is no ultimate meaning. However, we have to now try to somehow provide meaning to human existence. Why? Well, because it's fundamental to us. It's a part of our very nature. We seek out meaning as human beings. We can't help it. When we look at the world around us, we ascribe meaning to things. When we design and create things and make products, we make them with a particular purpose. We assign meaning to those things. But when it comes to our very existence, there isn't any meaning. It doesn't really add up. So they tried, the likes of Nietzsche, the likes of Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, all of them tried to provide some sort of alternative here. But what they ended up with was the absurd, as Albert Camus put it. The idea, when he referred to the absurd, he referred to the idea that on one end, we recognize that there is no ultimate meaning to life, but at this very same time, we can't help but seek out meaning. And we're stuck in this type of quagmire and this confusion as human beings. He even went as far as saying in one of his books that, the meaning of life is whatever keeps you alive, as long as it keeps you going. So, coming back to the point that if you look at life and you look at the world in the absence of God, in particular from the perspective of Islamic theism, if you put all of that aside, then life has no meaning. We're just here, and we're just here by accident, and we're here for no reason. Now, I don't know about you, but most atheists think it's sufficient to say, fine, no ultimate meaning of life, who cares? Let's just make up meaning and get along. Let's just make up meaning and keep going. Well, that may work for some for a while, right? You can tell yourself you want to be a doctor, an engineer, you want to do charity work, you want to change the world for a bit to make it a better place, etc., etc. That's all good and well. But as soon as someone sits down and takes a moment and really thinks about this, and they really sort of play with these ideas that, okay, my life has no ultimate meaning. It's pointless, and I know these words sound quite crude, but this is the reality. It's pointless, but at the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make things up for myself. You know, just like children like to play dress up, they like to dress up as Superman, Batman, etc. That's what you're essentially doing. I'm going to make up purpose for myself. Now, the question I have for you is, well, what does that even mean? Why even, if everything is meaningless, what's the meaning behind making things up for yourself? And you can see the absurdity just continues to develop and grow further and further. So I want to conclude by just suggesting two things to you, or one thing to you, which is that if you've really sat down and thought about the meaning of life, as most people have, especially during this COVID-19 outbreak, something I want you to do is, I want you to just, if you can, take some time and read the Quran. See what Islam has to say in regards to the meaning of life and see how it makes sense to you. Now, I understand this is not a positive argument for Islam or God's existence. That's not the point here. What I'm trying to highlight and show you is that Islam has utility from the perspective of our existence. It makes sense. It fits like a glove perfectly when it comes to us human beings. It has the answers to all of the questions that the philosophers have asked throughout the centuries and all the questions we ask ourselves today. And read it and see what it says. And I would say, maybe not a logical, powerful, philosophical argument for the proof of Islam. However, this acts as a sign. It's a sign that a book that was revealed over 1400 years ago to a man in a desert has the answers to all of your questions, including the most fundamental questions that are related to your very existence. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum.